Hello.
I do
Hello,
like
hello.
Ninja Turtles.
Hello, hello.
Hey, what's going on, guys? How you guys doing?
Not much. He was telling me about his badass Twitch emote. He's got Archer dressed up as Donatello.
Oh my god, I actually see it. Hold on. That's amazing. I love it. I fucking love it. Oh man.
It's fucking awesome. I think me and Grab GB. I think I'm gonna go with GB here. Um, we bonded over. We want like a Telltale style Archer game.
Oh, I need
Oh
that.
my god.
Seriously, I
I think we
need that.
discussed that on Twitter at one point.
Yes, we did.
Hello and
Oh
welcome
man.
to next.
Go.
Was it you good?
Yeah, I'm great, dude. I'm fantastic.
Hello and welcome to Next to Nothing, the show where we talk about how to waste your time and not your money in gaming. I am your host, Danie K. With me, as always, my wonderful, beautiful co-host, Renditions. How you doing?
Hi, that's me. I'm great. I'm on vacation. I'm fantastic. I'm so good.
Dude, guys, you can see it in Ren's eyes. There's joy.
It's pure
Like there's a
joy.
there's a
Bliss.
spark of joy. And joining us this week, another podcaster who does a show called Grab Life by the Controller. How you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Yes.
Yeah, of
Well,
course. Thanks
so
for being on, dude.
Oh, it's a
I
pleasure.
guess let me get this real quick. So the show is called Grab Life by the Controller, but what do you prefer us refer to you as during the show?
If you want to call me Donnie,
Donnie.
Okay,
that's fine.
right on.
Yeah, I go by Donnie Archer. That's my radio name, I guess you could call it.
Oh, gotcha. So, Donnie, for those who may not have listened to your show just yet, tell them all about your show.
My show is basically about the games that I played growing up, and if they're not a game that I've played growing up, then it's a game that my guests have played growing up, and we just share memories. We share the retro love, although it's not just a retro podcast; it's about gaming in general. But we start with our roots.
Mhm. Cool. And where can everyone find the show?
You can find it Stitcher, Podbean, Spotify, iTunes, anywhere pretty much except for what the hell is it called? iHeartRadio. I don't know
Mm.
how to get there. So
Now, I just will say you don't want to be on iHeart. Just, I have no reason to say that other than they're like my main competition in my professional life. But
Oh man.
and then their subdivision premiere is not a pain in my ass at all.
we'll see. And here where I'm from, the only ads that we hear on the radio is for iHeartRadio. Everything here major is
Yeah.
owned by iHeartRadio. So it's what people listen to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just making jokes. I'm throwing shade.
Oh no,
Despite
I
working.
get it completely.
Oh man.
I mean anything where like Taylor Swift does promos for it, I'm not down, but
Mhm.
I want listeners.
I was gonna say maybe Dane's just throwing shade because we were fighting back on the whole turtles being overrated thing earlier. That might
That
be it.
too. I'm just filled with rage now.
Oh man.
So we have some things to talk about. We're not just gonna
Yeah.
be bullshitting this entire podcast, although I'm sure we might be better off doing that. Um, I have played a new game
Mhm.
this last week. It's an early access game. We talk about some thrifting, and we can also do some Xbox news and some Apple Arcade news. But I figure we'll just start with the new game that I played. So I played a game called Rogue Heist. It is a multiplayer third-person shooter, um, where the main goal, like it seems like the main story mode, or not story mode, the main game mode for this is going to be sort of a control the point and capture the flag fusion, where like you have to sit on a point to collect like a money bag and then take that to another point on the map. and then I think it's like the first to 3 wins. Like I said, it's a third-person shooter. There's 4 different classes. There's like a hacker, there's a support, there's a sniper, and there's assault. Each have their own different weapons, and their own different abilities and uses. Um, so let me just kind of get off on the technical aspects of the game. So this is really early access. It just hit Steam last week, early access. I watched Big Fry play it. It intrigued me, and I watched Big Fry play it. And I'm trying to find like a way to talk about this constructively, because I don't want to
Yeah.
seem like I'm just being like negative, because it is in such an early access game. They're updating this game every 48 hours with bug fixes, and for what it seems like is that they are taking like community feedback very seriously, and they're listening, and they're implementing things very quickly. The sheer update schedule should tell people every 48 hours how early access this game is,
Right.
how new on the market this game is. So I'm gonna try not to be solely negative on this, because of how early it is. But it is a free to play game. I can already see some monetization practices that it's going to be fairly standard. Looks like cosmetics and some loot box kind of situations. It doesn't seem like there's going to be a whole hell of a lot else in it. You know, in terms of monetization, I can't see this being a DLC game where you have to
Right.
like buy map packs or anything like that. Or I could potentially see this being where you could essentially do a pay to skip, where you could buy different characters, but they should be able to grind them out with in-game currency. So the game, when I first loaded it up, it took me a little bit to calibrate my settings so that the game ran well. Once I got everything down to where it needed to be, it started running pretty smooth at 60 frames a second. What I will say is it should not have ran as poorly at higher settings as it did for my rig, because it doesn't seem like this game.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, from
not.
what I even watched you play, because I was in the stream while you were playing it, it did not look intensive at all. Like, it looked like a very, like, standard, like, okay graphics looking game, but nothing anything like, 4K
Not
graphics, high def
nothing
resolution.
super intense.
Yeah, exactly.
There's like no ray tracing here. There's not like individual individual grass blades need to be rendered kind of thing. So that's a thing that, of course, being early access, they still have time to hammer that out and iron that out. Gameplay wise, right now I've only been able to get my hands on 2 game modes, being the main game mode that I talked about earlier, and then like a TDM. The game has a problem right now with very, very, very low player numbers. Like, I was gonna play it yesterday on my stream. I sat here and waited for 10 minutes to get a game.
Yeah.
After 10 minutes, I'm like, okay, we're just gonna go. I'll play something else. I can't, that was a big thing. I'm like, and I've tried to play it a couple different times since I played it on my stream last week, off stream. And game modes have been the big thing. I'm like, I'm sitting here waiting 5-10 minutes. So, and I don't want to say that. I'm apprehensive about saying that, because then that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Why would I play a multiplayer game if there's nobody playing it?
Right.
Which kind of feeds into itself. And I don't want that to happen, because there is some potential here.
How many multiplayer modes are there? Is it just 2, or is there more than that?
I think there's 3 or 4.
Okay.
I think there's a free-for-all. And I think there's like a 1v1 mode.
Because in my opinion, that seems like a core issue right there. If you're trying to like release something like as a base, and like from what I watched from when you playing it, there were a lot of bugs with it. Nothing like super game breaking per se, but like there were a lot of like basic bugs that definitely needed to be ironed out. And just throwing in more game modes,
registration.
Yeah, throwing in more game modes kind of just limits it. It splits the player base. So even if you have like an okay-ish player base, even if it's relatively small, having just one mode is heavily going to help with like queue times and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. 10 minutes is a long time for a game. I
Yeah.
personally couldn't wait that long. There'd be no way. So like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I would say at least tone down the amount of like game modes that you have for
Mm-hmm.
now. If people end up liking it a lot, then yeah, maybe like introduce another one. But four,
Mm-hmm.
four seems like a lot, even for like a larger game. That's a pretty big
Yeah.
deal. Like you don't see there's battle royales that have decent player numbers that only keep it to like two modes total,
Yeah.
and for that very
Uh,
reason.
yeah. So Spirit just asked, did you try the sniping aspect at all in the chat? I did try the sniping out. Sniping actually felt fine.
Hmm.
Sniping in these kind of games, I'm usually worried about if like they feel good.
Right.
Because being a sniper in a game always kind of depends on how the controls feel and how the guns feel.
Hmm.
Um, one critique I do have right now that they need to kind of fix is the shotguns. There's a character whose main weapon is a shotgun, and shotguns feel awful. It doesn't feel like you're shooting a shotgun, and
Hmm.
um, there's not like a lot of visual feedback that you get when
Right.
you shoot it. So like not only is the sound kind of off, but then the feel is sort of off. Um, so yeah, and you're right. Like the game modes, yeah, I would say like they need to just kind of take it down to the TDM
Hmm.
and the core game mode. Well, so here's actually another critique I do have.
Hmm.
Um, because the player numbers are so low right now, or it's taking so long to get into a match, they need to lift level restrictions on game modes because I could
Hmm.
only play until I got to level two. Uh, until I got to level two, I couldn't play the core game mode or
Hmm.
what I think is going to be the core game mode. I could only play the TDM mode, which is what we're looking at here
Right.
on this map. And it's also like one map to one game mode right now.
Oh, okay.
Um,
I didn't actually know that. I honestly thought it
mhm,
was just this map because that's all I saw you play.
yeah.
Um.
So that was the thing I was kind of stuck on was that
Mhm.
okay, this is just the map to this game mode.
Right.
Um, and so yeah, and like until you hit another level, you're stuck in like just the regular like that TDM mode. So that's
Mhm.
something that they probably should lift as well. It doesn't make sense for an early access game like this to restrict game modes based on levels.
Mhm.
Like you shouldn't have to reach level two
Yeah.
to
I
go play a different game mode.
I think the big thing more than anything to realize is, especially after watching you play it, it seems like one of the more first like published projects that's like
Hmm.
really trying to step out of its bounds, which good for them, don't get me wrong, that's amazing. But at the same time, you still need to really like keep yourself in you can't jump out too far too fast, or you're
Yeah.
kind of just gonna be all over the place, which is kind of what it seemed like when I was
Hmm.
watching it. Is like everything sort of had an issue. None of them were inherently like game breaking and like major flaws, but like sound design seemed like a problem. Like
Hmm.
gameplay didn't seem super great. Map design seemed kind of like really standard. Like it seemed very, very unoriginal and uninspired.
Hmm.
And I don't know. I feel like if anything, instead of trying to branch out on all of those at once, which I'm assuming they're probably doing right now, I would say focus more on like one particular task, really try to focus on like cleaning that up rather than
Hmm.
focusing on everything. Having four
Yeah.
game modes with like a map for each different one seems really strange in its own right.
Yeah.
Because if you really wanted to experiment with like map design and things like that, you'd probably all just keep it in one game mode and like keep it TDM. Granted,
Hmm.
there's probably other game modes, don't get me wrong, but TDM is something everybody can jump into and know exactly what to do
Yeah.
without
Well,
like,
I think the capture the flag game mode, like I said, that's going to probably be the core game mode,
mhm,
and I think that's what they need to focus on, because everyone can kind of get that you grab the thing, you run back, you grab the
mhm,
thing, you run back. Um, so for me, that's the where I'd focus, and because I mean, oh, this is just a third person shooter with a TDM mode,
yeah,
eh, eh.
yeah, no, that's completely fair.
Um, so one thing, and you mentioned sound design that I wanted to mention.
Hmm.
And I think maybe you were there, but
Yes.
I had to send somebody a message who I knew would recognize this sound,
Hmm.
and they showed up. High Spirit um, was there's some sound. there's some sound stuff that to me is straight up like they took the files from Dirty Bomb.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've played 500 hours of Dirty Bomb. I have heard the sound effects of Dirty Bomb many times, and I instantly recognized it. Like there are some sound effects like with like loading screens, and some other shit. I'm like, so that's like a thing. I'm like, if they bought that those assets, cool.
Mm-hmm.
But I noticed it right away. If they
Yeah.
didn't buy those assets, if those are proprietary to splash damage or something else,
Mm-hmm.
uh you, you might want to fix that real quick.
Yeah.
Um, so that would overall it's not a bad game.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I were to like I would say check it out. Don't let me being worried about player numbers affect whether you get into this game early or not. It's free to play, so it's only going to cost you the data to download it.
Mm-hmm.
um, I think it's worth checking out. I think it could go somewhere. I think this could be a decently populated game and could have a decent player base in it.
Mm-hmm.
Let me double check and see what they say it requires, but it shouldn't be super high resource at all.
Mm-hmm.
Um, well, if I could spell, um, I was like, and it doesn't seem like there's really that many creators on it right now either. I was the only person that streamed it last night, and I only streamed it for like 10 minutes. It's got mostly negative reviews right now. I think that could change as they update the game. The minimum system requirements that they're saying on Steam: 64-bit operating system, the usual suspects of Windows 7, 8, or above, an i5 3470 at 3.2 gigahertz, or an AMD X8FX 8350 at 4 gigahertz, 8 gigs of RAM. They suggest a GTX 660 or an AMD Radeon HD 7850
Mm-hmm.
and DirectX 11.
Yeah. That's
And you
nothing
need
super
7 gigs.
crazy. I'm
No,
shocked that like because you said that you're having like for the settings that it was running on default that you're having issues with that. That still really surprises me though because
I'm I'm
from
kind
what
of
we
curious if
mm-hmm.
it was because I was streaming.
Yeah.
So we could take that into account, but
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know. That I it's not a really super graphically intensive game. So when
no.
I see things like that where it's like I have the settings on high and I can't run it like at a smooth frame rate whatsoever.
Mhm.
Like that in itself to me personally is always a big issue. I always prefer to have like a really consistent frame rate over like quality, but at like a certain extent, you still have to meet those requirements. Like you're not
Yeah.
really losing a lot of quality bumping it down, but at the same time, you're not
Mhm.
really like losing a lot bumping it up either. It's not. I don't know.
Mhm.
It doesn't seem like it's that big of an issue to like really be
Yeah.
causing that much like stability issues.
Yeah. So overall, good game or a good base for a game, I should say.
Hmm.
If the devs find this, my takeaway right now is um, you know, my recommendation is clean up the game in terms of like some bugs that you guys have. Like I had some hit scan issues. Really focus on like the core game mode, and as a part of that, remove the level.
Hmm.
Like it's even though it's just like one level,
Yeah.
remove that because it's the core game mode. You want people to understand what, like I said, that's what I think the core game mode is going to be. It's what
Hmm.
makes sense for it to be. Um, and I think it's a good game mode to have. So, lift the level requirement on that so people can just start playing it right away. Maybe put it, maybe say, people under a certain level are going to be put into different matches than people above that level. But at this stage in the game's development, in the game's lifespan, it doesn't make sense to have any sort of level caps
Hmm.
and blocking people from going. And
Right.
then the only other thing is reach out to creators, big and small, to see if they'll play the game.
Hmm.
Those are my things. I think it's worth checking out. Like I said, it's not going to cost you anything to download it, to play it. Don't let my fears um, of low player numbers right now and long wait times deter you. Yeah, that's really about it for Rogue Heist. Donnie, you've been a little quiet. Do you have any questions
Well, I
about
was
Rogue
watching
Heist?
the gameplay, and
Hmm.
Mhm.
does anybody else get the feeling that it's kind of like Rainbow Six Vegas 2?
I was actually really thinking about Division, but I could also see where you get the idea of Rainbow Six Vegas too. Yeah.
Like,
Um.
that takes me back to PS3 days, and I mean, not just the level, but
Mhm.
like graphically.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's pre-release, but
Hmm.
I don't know. I guess I was expecting something different.
Mhm. Yeah. Because to me personally, at least, like it doesn't look unique. Like there's no real
Hmm.
like attention grabbing thing where I'm just like that looks different than any other third person shooter. Like there's not
Hmm.
really anything like that. It's I don't know. I don't know if it's just specifically the art style for me, or maybe it's just like the map that like I've seen the most has not looked super great. Like it's kind of not it's fairly open. There's not like a whole lot going on. There's not like a mix between like large open areas and like smaller areas for like close quarters fighting. It's just kind of like you're in an arena and it's pretty
Hmm.
open. If you just
Yeah.
step out in the wrong angle, then somebody's just gonna pop you from a mile away, which we did see in the video for a little bit. And
Hmm.
I don't know. Like when I look at it, I don't see originality. That's the big issue for me personally. But then again,
Hmm.
I am kind of a dick when it comes to reviewing games that I don't think are going to be particularly super great. So
Yeah.
I don't know. People probably would disagree with that, but
Hmm.
that's just
Yeah,
my
there's
stance on it.
nothing unique. There's nothing about it that wants to pull me in. It doesn't
Hmm.
grab life by the controller, if you will. I mean, for real, that's the first little bit of information I've heard about the game. That's a
Hmm.
little, little snidbit that I've seen.
Yeah.
It it's not original. It doesn't scream, "Hey, you're gonna play me. You're gonna find something different."
Hmm.
I mean, it looks like it could be a fun time killer, but I'm not impressed. But
Hmm.
I don't know. It's tough because the games that kind of have a feel like that can be some of the best if you get in lobbies with your friends or with good
Hmm.
people. But right now, it doesn't seem like there's many people, so it'd be
Yeah.
tough to hammer that out.
Hmm.
Um, One thing, I mean, to your point about the originality, they might be struggling with that just by the fact that a sound asset I
Yeah.
immediately recognized as
Right.
being from Dirty Bomb.
Yeah.
Like immediately. I heard that in Big Fry stream. I mean, you could probably find it if someone wants to scrub through Big Fry stream because when I watched him play it and I heard that noise, I'm like, that's straight up from Dirty Bomb. And he goes, "Really? Is it?" I'm like, I have 500 hours in that fucking game. That's from Dirty Bomb.
Oh
So
man.
yeah, there might be a lack of inspiration from there, and I think that's a good point. Maybe they need to kind of look in the
Hmm.
mirror, and be like, well, what can we do artistically,
Yeah.
and you know
Because it's not even
what?
so much that you have to really do anything with the character models or anything like that as
Yeah.
a base, as long as you're like, listen, you can make something look great with filters. Like that's solid enough as it is. If you
Hmm.
can like work something out along with those lines, then you might be
Yeah.
onto something. You don't have to keep it as like it's the middle of the daytime. We're just shooting at each other. Just shoot
Hmm.
at each other. I
That's
understand that it's like a heist, but like there was literally nothing that I saw that really like conveyed that to me.
mhm.
That was my
That
stance on it personally.
yeah, and I mean, that's a problem that a lot of games have too. That's not
Mhm.
just I
Right.
mean, that's a problem certainly Sandstorm has.
Mhm.
Uh, but yeah, I mean, if the devs are listening, I'm not trying to shit on the game. I'm
Mhm.
trying to give good positive feedback. I think they have a solid base. A lot of games that are like at this stage
Mhm.
usually are much worse. I
Yeah.
think the fact that they're putting out an update every 48 hours
Mhm.
is a good sign. Um, but they are facing some issues here in terms of like you guys said, originality. I think they have some like focusing in the wrong areas
Mhm.
of the game. Um, that's really about it. Because I think I want to say I heard at some point that they wanted like October to be a full release. Mm,
Yeah, with the
That's
stance that it's in right now, I can't possibly imagine that personally.
yeah, I mean, they have a lot to do in terms of marketing
Hmm.
and like sound and all sorts of other stuff. So that's Rogue Heist. Anything else on that? Otherwise, we can move on to our
I think I'm
next
good.
conversation.
I think I'm
I
good.
have one thing, and
Yeah.
I mean, if the devs are listening, I grew up in the 90s. The 90s did some crazy shit,
Hmm.
and it made games fun. They had just weird, off the wall ideas, and they explored them because they could. Uh, why not bring some of that stuff back? Like, I mean, Rogue Heist, you're thinking stealing things of value. Why not
Hmm.
do something like a chemical plant with, weird colors and glowing vats? And I mean, make it visually appealing instead of just some train station.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, that that's the only thing I have to say about it. I
Yeah.
enjoy shooters. I
Hmm.
play a lot. They're fun. Like I said, you get in with a good group of friends,
Hmm.
and it it's not the game that makes it awesome. It's the interaction. But
Right.
right there, it does look like it needs to be polished a lot more.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're kind of all in agreement on that,
Hmm.
on all that there. Um, so on to our next topic, if you guys don't mind. I
Yeah.
mean,
No,
it
by all
sounds like
means.
we're good. Um, Donnie, I kind of let you take it away. Said you do a lot of retro gaming. Um, so when there's a game that you're trying to find, uh, a retro game for an old Sega console or an old Nintendo console, how do you go about finding those games? I'll let you take it away from here.
Well, the thing about me is every game that I buy, I'm not necessarily a collector. If I can get them in great shape and show them off, then good for me. I
Hmm.
Hmm.
get games purely to play them. I have to have stuff to talk about. So a lot of the stuff that I pick up, I stumble upon. Uh, when I go thrift shopping, we don't have the Goodwills. We don't have a lot of stuff in my area. We have local church run uh, like conglomerates, I guess.
Hmm.
There's really one thrift shop, but they have stores. I think they have 14 in my county. So I go up and down the aisles, and a lot of kids will pick up stuff, take it around, ask mom and dad, hey, can I have this? It looks fun. Their
Hmm.
parents will say, no, we don't have that system. They'll just put it down.
Hmm.
So, one of my biggest tips is seriously, if you're going somewhere specifically to look for retro games, take
Hmm.
your time. Uh, I found an N64, transparent watermelon color, gorgeous system. It was not with the rest of the electronics. It's probably the best find I'll ever have in my entire life. I got real lucky on it, but it's because I was examining everything.
Hmm.
Uh, when I go looking for, used PlayStation stuff, the cases are the same as you'd find CDs. So I go through CD bins,
Hmm.
and I've been lucky enough to find Tony Hawk Pro Skater. The disc wasn't in it, but the case was in immaculate condition. Uh, it's just about being patient and not really going with any specific game in mind.
Hmm.
Yeah.
One of the places I just hit up has what they call the collector's area. They'll have stuff like used jewelry. I've actually seen a Rolex watch in it for $80. Whether or not it was real, I have no idea. I'm not an expert on that. But
Hmm.
somebody was gracious enough to donate probably their son, who just left on a mission and they were cleaning out his room, a whole tub full of Nintendo games.
Mm.
So I was able to pick up Ninja Gaiden, Blaster Master, Destiny of an Emperor, all these games because somebody just they were taking up space. They were dusty. I got Mike Tyson's Punch Out. I can't get it to work for the life of me, but I still have it.
The Mike Tyson's Punch Out you can't get to work.
No, I need to get some Brasso and clean off the connectors.
Yeah.
I can get audio. I can get the bell to ding at the very beginning, and then you can hear a little bit of the roar of the crowd, and then everything's black and stops.
Huh.
So that is a game that I had a lot of fun with one of my mom's best friend's kids. Funny thing is, we shared a birthday. Went over for his birthday party. He got Mike Tyson's Punch Out, and I was like, "Sweet, I want this game, Mom. Take note." Didn't happen for me, but I mean, I've got great memories. So when I saw it, working or not, it's something I had to have, and a lot of places are actually using price charting to kind of set their prices. And if you don't think they're a realistic price, haggle them. Seriously, talk to them. Pull up information on your phone. Say, I know that you're wanting $20 for this, but if you look right here, the going price is 12.
Yeah.
But
So
if it's a
okay.
high value game, you might want to just pay the price, because if you don't, there's somebody behind you that's going to see what you're looking at, and then they'll grab it just to flip it.
Yeah.
So one of the big things when it comes to like thrifting and finding retro games is at least in my area there's like been a big uptick in like retro retail where they have like these like the stores will be filled with retro games or vintage games, and then they'll have like maybe they'll have some like original consoles, but then they'll have like these monstrosities that will play like 6 different systems on them and whatever else. What are your tips like when going into those stores? Because the whole retro retail thing is very interesting to me because it's almost like it's a new way to antique.
Oh, definitely. And the funny thing is, you can find retro games at some antique stores. Those are the places where they want the most amount of money. Like, they'll find a listing on eBay. Say they find a greatest hits PlayStation Symphony of the Night. Realistically, it's worth $70. But they'll see, an original sealed copy, $1,700. So they, get their greatest hits open, might have a crack in the plastic, crappy condition. They'll want $350 for it. So, I mean, but speaking of the monstrosity systems, I actually love them. My original Nintendo was probably one of the most unreliable consoles I've ever had. It was always take it out, blow on it. If it doesn't work, press it down all the way, slide another cartridge in on top, and see if you can get it to work that way. I have a Retron 2 that I play from. One of the reasons why I absolutely love it is it's top load. Not only is it top load, but it plays Nintendo and Famicom, and then Super Nintendo and Super Famicom. So my whole gaming collection just increased by 4 different consoles, because I have a game store locally that makes trips to Japan just to pick up imports. I can find a copy of Dracula X through them for about $8 instead of paying, $70 for a Super Nintendo version of it. So if you're thrifting to flip and make money, I think you've got your work cut out for you, because you have to be hitting these places up repeatedly. If you are thrifting to add to your collection just so you can play some games like me, just go in open-minded. Know that you're going to be let down. One of the things that I see the most are Wii games, and Wii, as much as I love it for like Donkey Kong Country Returns, it's got a lot of shovelware, and the games just aren't not what Nintendo is known for back in the day.
Mhm.
But hit as many places as you can. I mean, if there's 6 or 7 by you, see if you can hit 5 in a row. You might honestly see some of the same people
Mhm.
as you're leaving and entering stores because it's a big craze now.
Mhm. Yeah. So with how like the quality on vintage products always varies widely.
Mhm.
Um, have you ever had to like restore something? Like, have you ever gotten like a cartridge where like let's say it's for like the Game Boy Color where you had to change the save battery, or you had to like crack into it to replace like a stick or something like that. Um, have you had to do any of that? Do you have any tips for maintenance? Like, say you get something for 25 cents, doesn't work. All right, pull out the screwdriver, you kind of thing.
Oh, definitely. Every cart that I find, unless it comes from my local game store.
Mhm.
If I find it at a thrift shop, if I find it on Let Go, Offer Up, a yard sale, anything like that, I don't know what it's been through. I will take it apart, get out my Q-tips, my cleaning cloth, my alcohol, and just give it a one over. I'm not a professional game restorer, so I use
Mhm.
the highest content alcohol that I can buy because you rub it on, it cleans, and then it dries really fast. And
And
then
you're talking isopropyl, right?
yes, I'm not talking like Jack Daniels or anything like
Yeah.
that.
I just wanted because someone's
Just
gonna
dip
be
the
out there.
cartridge in some rum. He'll be fine.
Yeah,
Exactly.
just make sure it's clear like a gin or a vodka, and you'll be okay.
Yeah. So and I always struggle with this word isopropyl. Is that how you pronounce it? Isopropyl alcohol?
I thought it was isopropyl,
Mhm.
but
Isopropyl. Okay,
yeah, I isopropyl alcohol, and I use
I'll defer to you.
80% because that's the highest that I can find around me, and I'm not gonna go on Amazon and buy some high content shit
Hmm.
just for
Right.
this. I mean, like I said, I collect to play, and I play pretty much every day. N64, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo is my all-time favorite console,
Hmm.
and I mean, I have to make certain that what I'm buying isn't going to mess up my Genesis or my Retron.
Right.
I want to make certain that the little budget that I have gaming goes as far as I can possibly make it go.
Hmm. Um, I kind of thinking about it in like terms of like maintenance and stuff like that. There's a if anyone has gone over to a friend's house and they had an N64, and yeah, I have two controllers and they get the good controller and then you get the Mad Cats. The janky crummy accessories. How hard is it for you to find legitimate accessories for these systems? And like, have you ever like had to just settle for the shitty Mad Cats that you saw at Goodwill?
You want to know what? When it comes to N64, I prefer Mad Cats to the
Mm,
N64 controller. The N64 analog stick. My little brother, when I didn't grow up playing it, I
mm,
pretty much moved to PlayStation right away, and I've been
Mhm.
PS fanboy ever since. But
mm-hmm.
I remember the day that he snapped an analog stick playing Mario Party,
Oh god.
and he was like, "What am I supposed to do? This was my birthday present." He's laying the guilt trip on my mom, and I can't even play my birthday present anymore. Well, my mom, she's not going to spend $60 on a new controller, so she bought a Mad Catz.
Mm,
He had that Mad Catz until he sold his N64 to buy an PS3.
mm,
So I mean, it might look absolutely janky, but
Mhm.
I think some of the stuff for it is better when it comes to the N64.
mm,
There's a new company called Retro Fighter. I will say this right now. Anyone who follows my Instagram, follows my streams, follows the podcast, I'm not a fan of the N64 whatsoever. I hate the
mm,
Trident. Uh, I went from this comfortable Super Nintendo controller to this monstrosity that kept poking me in the balls whenever I'd rested in my lap. Which to me, that's not cool, Nintendo. But these new retro fighters, they're basically built like a Switch controller, and I want to play Ocarina of Time. Guy that's in the chat, the Gaming Power Ups, actually sent me a copy, and I'm having the hardest time getting into it right now because of that controller. If I had a Mad Catz, I'd be happier. But that I know that Nintendo was trying to be groundbreaking and just show that they still have it.
Real innovative.
Yeah, innovative sometimes a step behind before you can take a step forward. And I feel like Sony with their original PlayStation controller and then adding the dual analogs, I think they were onto something. So
yeah. Have there ever been any peripherals that you found that were just like that shocked you? Have you ever found like one of those like those like top insert drives that you know that like it's like on like old Sega
the
consoles?
32X?
I think so, where it would be like a disc drive, like a CD drive, and
the Sega
would,
CD that was
yes.
actually, yeah. I have found one of those. They wanted $500 for it, so I had to politely decline. Seriously, a lot of the people that are working the thrift stores in my area, they're almost hipsterish. So they think they're hip to the jive. They, you know, they want to write screenplays and be a barista at the same time, but they're working at the thrift store while they're working on their screenplay. I don't know. But
they got the big twirly mustaches.
Yeah, and when I'm for real, they honestly do. And one of the guys that actually sold me my N64, he had the skullet that was pulled back in a ponytail. And I mean, nicest guy ever, but he cruises when there's no customers in the store. He goes through eBay, and that's where he gets his pricing.
Oh, no.
And so you can't realistically judge eBay because I can put anything I want on eBay. I've got a Guitar Hero controller and a drum set right here. I'll put it on eBay for $500. Will I get that? Hell no. People aren't that stupid. But
no, everyone's got a shitty plastic guitar somewhere now.
Yeah, exactly. I can put it there and it'll list it and it'll show it, but it doesn't mean that that's what it's worth. And they don't know what it's worth because they didn't grow up with it. They didn't appreciate it. So do your homework, go in, you know, haggle, have price charting in front of you to prove it. And if they won't budge, if it's something that has sentimental value for you and it's not too out of the asking price, you know, what you expected, just do it. Because seriously, if you don't, somebody else is going to. We had somebody when we got this translucent watermelon N64, seriously, you could hear him go, oh fuck, when he picked it up. Like, I don't know if he knew it was there and he was debating on whether or not he should grab it, but I just saw it because it was a bag buried under stuff, and I could see the controllers. And I have 7 kids, and they'll all play video games. The easiest thing is the N64 because you can do 4 at a time. And so, I mean, we've got Smash Bros, we've got, you know, whatever else, GoldenEye. And so I was thinking, you know what? It'd be nice to have some spare controllers because the analogs suck. Thanks, Nintendo. But and I found out, holy crap, there's a whole system right underneath it. And so I'm like, you know, I'm snagging it. I have no choice. For the cost of these 3 controllers that's in it, I'm getting a system for free.
Awesome. Because I'm just looking at the time right now. Ren, do you have any other questions for Donnie here in regards to thrifting and stuff?
Not necessarily questions. It's more along the lines of, because I tend not to be the kind of person that really does thrift shopping. It tends to be more often than not, like, I want to spend as least amount of time as possible when I'm shopping. So I'm just like, I'm getting this, 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 and this, and I'm not going to look at anything else. But like, I can almost guarantee, like, even at the GameStops, where like occasionally people just have no idea what something's worth entirely. I am sure I've missed like 5 different things at this point,
Yeah.
and now I'm kind of salty. But yeah, I'll know. I'll definitely give it at least a little bit more time when I'm doing like specific like vintage shopping or anything where I
Mhm.
think they might not actually know like their like real pricing, because I distinctly remember back when I was in high school, I stopped into like this antique store and they had like a working, like old, like really old school Game Boy, like the brick, like the big
Mhm.
old bulky brick Game Boy. And I was like, I want it so badly. And I was like, I saw the $5 price tag and I was like, I want it so badly. And then because I'm an idiot high school kid, I didn't have $5 on me and I was the saltiest kid. It was the worst. I regret everything. My worst life choice.
Mhm.
Oh man. But yeah.
I I remember getting some. We had a old Sega console when I was growing up. Like, read
Hmm.
about my parents split. I even remember the apartment we were in. And I remember us getting my mom uh, at one point when she was out thrift shopping because we didn't have a ton of money at the time.
Hmm.
Coming home with like 5 games because they were like a quarter each.
Yeah.
It was like Christmas, but it was like in the middle of May. It was a primo memory, and I remember I had a Sonic game that I played the absolute fuck out of. Um, but just because we know you're on a time
Hmm.
table here, Donnie, we'll go on ahead and we'll move on to the next topic unless you have anything else you want to add.
um, no, I think I pretty much covered everything and then some.
Yeah. Hopefully people learn some good tips, and if they're going out thrifting or if they want to get into retro gaming, they can take some of the knowledge you imparted on them and save themselves some extra money.
Oh heck yeah.
Um, so we've got some news here that I think is a little bit important to talk about, just a little bit here.
Hmm.
It's not really in our niche, but it's at least worth mentioning in case someone who listens to us or doesn't really get gaming news from anywhere else and they haven't heard this yet. Um, Vice News, through their motherboard publication, published an expose that stated Microsoft contractors, um, so third parties
Hmm.
hired by Microsoft, were listening into Xbox owners in their home using the Kinect system. So for anyone who, I mean, just like a basic rundown, back when they released Xbox One in 2013, they came with a Kinect, and a lot of the um, marketing around the console
Hmm.
promoted the idea that it was voice activated, Xbox on, Xbox off. Hey, Cortana. Hey, Xbox. Da 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 da. And it should come to no surprise that essentially those devices, even your cell phone, if you have Siri enabled
Hmm.
or Google, voice assistant enabled, are always listening because they want to hear the voice trigger. So, for example, I have my phone here. Hey Siri. There we go. See, they're always listening because they need to if that function wants to work. What they shouldn't be doing is allowing those false positive audio recordings, right? Because
Hmm.
Xbox thinks something was said, right? Whatever false positive thing that could happen, and then that recording being sent to a third party to be analyzed.
Hmm.
Where third parties who are not yourself, your attorneys,
Hmm.
um, and Xbox, people who are not those groups should not have access to audio recordings that could contain your social security number,
Right.
that could contain personal information, sexual encounters. Um, what other things do you guys not want a third party to know about? And the potential for that to be picked up was there and was listened in on.
Hmm.
Um, so really big issue, big problem in the fact that you're bringing in always active microphones into your homes.
Hmm.
I'm a person who I put a part of the reason I have an analog microphone is because when I know when I power it off, it's powered off. I'm a little paranoid, and I always make sure that at the very least my webcam is facing up towards the ceiling when I'm not streaming.
Oh man.
So this was just a big thing. This the Vice article. I'll actually share the link in the chat, and I'll share it in the description of the episode if I remember. Very important to look at and see what the future ramifications are, and always remember that any device that is voice activated, such as your phones, any of the Amazon devices, the Amazon Echo, Dot, etc., those are always listening. You are inviting microphones that are always listening into your home.
Mm-hmm.
Be aware of that, and at some point you might just need to accept it.
Yeah. I mean, I can't
But
even like say how many times I've said something like on stream, for example, and then like I start Googling something and then it says like the exact thing that I was just saying, and I'm just like, what? Excuse me?
so what I will say, there is some like misconceptions about how, like, Facebook in particular,
Hmm.
there's like a lot of misconceptions on how the algorithms work. Where there's a podcast, pretty big podcast called Reply All, um, that they tackle this question: is like Facebook listening to you through your phone and then selling you advertising based on that? What's really happening is that they're looking at the relationships that you have on Facebook. So Donnie's gonna make the flight out here uh to where I live here in Iowa. He posts that on Facebook, and it has, and he tags me on Facebook. He says, "Oh, I'm gonna go see Danie in Iowa. Can't wait for this weekend. About to board the flight." Right? He
Hmm.
says something like that on Facebook. So it then makes that connection. The algorithms make that connection between me and him, and it's gonna say, "Okay, so these two obviously have a relationship on the platform. It says that they're going to see each other this weekend. We're going to advertise some of the things that Donnie likes in his advertising. So we'll just say Bud Light. Donnie, I don't know if you like Bud Light, but we're just gonna say you like Bud Light.
Hey, that
We're
works
gonna
for me.
take we're gonna take that Bud Light advertisement and we're gonna put it on Danie. And so when Donnie shows up, I pick him up at the airport, and Donnie's like, "Oh, do you have any beer at your place?" No, I don't. Sorry. We'll stop at a gas station on the way there. Uh, and like I'm checking my phone at a red light, which don't do. This is a hypothetical. And I'm checking, Facebook at a red light or something. And the first ad I see is Bud Light. That's how that works. It's not that it's like listening to us. It's that it's looking at it's taking all these algorithms and looking at all these relationships and saying, okay, we might not be able to get this person, but we can probably get this person using this
Hmm.
relationship. Um, so that's like one thing I'm always like, it's actually more insidious to me. That's like more insidious than it just listening in on you.
Yeah.
Because that's a machine being way smarter and like being way more manipulative than than like someone listening in on you could ever be.
Do you want to know a secret?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I work for a company who does stuff with social media,
Uh-huh.
social media posts, boosting, stuff like that.
Mhm.
Um, they actually do listen in and listen for keywords and then
Hmm.
use that to promote stuff. It's not just
Oh.
about text for their algorithms.
Mhm.
They have massive supercomputers that analyze speech and recognize key phrases.
Oh.
And so when they hear these key phrases, based on your geotag, they're going to promote certain things.
Mhm.
So it is scary shit. I've seen enough stuff that really the only Facebook associated app that I have is Instagram,
Hmm.
and I do as little as possible with it. It's pretty much like a business tool for me, but
Mhm.
I it's scary stuff, because when I found out that they do have voice recognition for keywords, and they analyze and they create new keywords every day,
Mhm.
to me that sounds like Skynet. I mean,
Yeah. You know what's not horribly invasive? Radio advertisement. People keep me in business by listening to the radio. Only listen to our podcasts.
Oh man.
Do nothing else online. Listen to radio. Keep me in business.
yeah, listen to our podcast. We're not trying to sell you anything. We're just trying to entertain and amuse you, maybe educate you.
Mhm.
The only thing that we're trying to sell you is our humble bundle affiliate links, which you can use down
God.
below. um, so that's the Xbox story. Some fear mongering on our part.
Mhm.
Pay attention to stories such as that because they are incredibly important. Your rights as a human being are important, and join the revolution, I guess. We have one more story, and I'm going to preface this story just by saying this is not entirely confirmed. This is
Mhm.
more speculation and rumor based on some information that publication saw through um, Apple API for the App Store. So this is the Apple Arcade. We have some speculation on what it will cost. So if people don't remember, the Apple Arcade was announced at the Apple Worldwide Developers Conference 2019. We talked about it with a mutual friend here, Donnie, Reverend Sven.
Mhm.
Um,
Oh, I love Reverend Sven.
Padre, as I call him. We actually talked about it with him. Whoops, that's the wrong thing. Let me
Mhm.
find it here. We talked about it with him back in June, actually, June 6th. Um, so it is a service Apple is putting out for all of their iDevices, the iPhone, Apple TV, Apple Watch, the the iFridge, the Apple
Mhm.
oven, whatever else you want to include in there. um, where it's going to be a monthly subscription service that is going to feature a variety of games that can be used on the family share plan and can be used on more than one device. Um, the price that the publication found on this Apple API listing was $5.99 a month. Um, all of the games on Apple Arcade are supposed to work on the Mac OS, on the iOS, and on the Apple TV software. And they have like a whole list of games that they have
Mhm.
on the website, but there's not a whole hell of a lot. And I think we talked about it. There's just wasn't like a lot that drew us
Yeah.
then, and we were talking before the stream, and there's not really a lot that's drawing us
But
right
Mhm.
that was before I found out that they have hot lava.
now.
The tagline is "Don't touch the floor because it's lava." So run, jump,
Yeah.
climb, and surf. And it's a nostalgic game that will transport you back to your childhood, dude. That's got me. They can
Yeah.
have all the monies. I'm done
Mm.
retro gaming. I'm playing hot lava for life.
Oh man. Oh my
He's
god.
gonna be exclusively an Apple arcade content creator now.
Oh
Well,
man.
and Mr. Turtle, they have Mr. Turtle.
They do have Mr.
We
Turtle.
had a huge discussion about that earlier.
Turtles are underrated animals, and y'all can fight me over it.
I could not
Turtles
possibly
are
disagree
awesome
more.
if they have a sight or a bow staff.
Oh
So,
god.
just like on the price itself, how are you guys feeling about that $5.99, or I'm sorry, $4.99 a month? That $5 a month.
I
Um,
honestly, I don't care about mobile regardless. So like
mhm,
this doesn't even remotely appeal to me. I'm gonna be dead honest with you. Like
mhm,
the concept doesn't really appeal to me. If I really wanted like some random like Apple games, I'd probably go download some free ones.
mhm,
But like I don't know. I'm not willing to spend $5 a month for something I probably wouldn't play, even if I did like have it. I'd probably play like
mhm,
what, maybe one or two, and then cancel after the first month. Be like, that was wasting my money.
mhm.
That might just be
Well,
me.
yeah, because I mean, I'll be honest, I'm not super interested in it myself. I mean, I have an iPhone, and that's it. I don't have an Apple TV.
Hmm.
To me, the appeal is the multi-device use and the idea that maybe, um, because we talked about this with Google Stadia recently too.
Hmm.
The idea that, oh, maybe I could use this as a way to game on my TV, right? My main gaming apparatus right now is my desktop. I don't have the console or anything like that, so the TV really is just for watching content. But if
Hmm.
I have some friends over and there could be like a party game or something like that on the Apple Arcade,
Hmm.
or some other games that I actually looked at one called Overland that looks like it's a survival game. um, Take care of a group of travelers on a post-apocalyptic road trip across the United States in this turn-based survival game. Fight off scary creatures, rescue stranded survivors, and scavenge for supplies like fuel, first aid kits, and weapons. One thing I do want to mention: it looks like these are going to be Apple endorsed games.
Hmm.
These aren't going to be just random shit from the App Store. These look like these are games curated and selected by Apple
Hmm.
for use on Apple Arcade.
Well, here's a thing to interject real fast.
Mhm.
One of the reasons why I am an Apple guy, and when I say I'm an Apple guy,
Hmm.
I stream from my Mac. I do my podcast from an iMac. I've got iMac, MacBook Pro. Everybody in my family pretty much has iPhones. I've
Mhm.
got an old school iPod. We've got iPads. Who ever knows about Apple knows that they are pretty stringent with what they allow on their app store. They have
Hmm.
to meet a certain, quality standard
Right.
versus almost anything can go on Android. So I right there, I don't think that they would be any different on here than
Hmm.
they would be on your mobile device.
Yeah.
I
I
don't think I think they'd just throw in a bunch of shit and say, okay, there you go. They'll have 7 titles that are worth looking into,
Mhm.
Mhm.
and then the rest is filler. Like Overland right now is circling or cycling across the page. Right next to it is Spider Sars, which actually sounds pretty cool. Spider dinosaurs. It's
Mhm.
got a T Rex with spider legs. That could be fun to look into with your kids for like 3 minutes.
Mhm.
Kids, when it
Mhm.
comes to mobile games, and I like to think of myself as an expert on this because I have 7 of them.
Mhm.
Uh, they're not really story driven games, and
Mhm.
kids nowadays don't give a crap about
Mhm.
story driven games. So
Yeah.
to me, this would be great until you're like, okay, well, all my kids have ADHD, so they don't care. I mean, it'd
Yeah.
be
Mhm.
great for them to just cycle through games and test them out,
Mhm.
Mhm.
and not be like, oh, can I get this free game? Oh, that sucked. I deleted it.
Yeah.
So can I get this new game to replace it? Oh, well, that one sucked too. So
Yeah.
I don't see the quality being like you would find on an actual console. And I'm not
Mhm.
dissing indie games. I love indie games. One of my
Mhm.
favorite games is the Bloodstained series, Curse of the Moon and Ritual of the Night. And they're indie. I love the
Mhm.
game Hue. There's a ton of great indie games, but these look just like, hey, we could make a game, so why don't we?
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I totally agree, to be completely honest. It's like when I think of Apple, I'm not an Apple guy, but when I think of Apple, one of the biggest things I think of is curated. Like that tends to be like the big thing. They have to have specific like repairmen for like all of their specific devices, let alone for their apps. Like they all have to be specifically like curated to a degree. And like
Mhm.
I don't I don't see what I'm paying for. That's the big thing. I guess I'm paying to like put something on another device, but that seems more like just a feature that would
Mhm.
probably just be a really cool feature to like add. I don't know. When I think about it, I don't really think of anything particularly that great. And if I owned like an Apple device, I'd only own one. Like I'd probably just own an iPhone and that'd be it. Like I don't know. That's kind of the stance that I'm at on it, is like I don't see the value. I really don't. When it
Mhm.
comes to like mobile games, specifically the ones I saw, was like these would all just have like a mild amount of my attention and then that's it. And like
Mhm.
then I'm done. So yeah, I don't know. That's me on the boat.
I think the big thing with Apple Arcade
Hmm.
right now, because I'm a little bit more on the optimistic side, and just I kind of sit in between the um I'm pretty indifferent to Apple. I think a lot of the problems Apple that stems from Apple are like, you're talking about like the repair people, the Genius Bar.
Hmm.
Genius Bar doesn't know shit. I
Hmm.
hear there's a lot of shit with the Genius Bar that's really fucked. Um but in terms of like the operating system and like a lot of the services and stuff like that, I'm pretty indifferent. I have a
Hmm.
problem with hardware. I have a problem more with the technical aspect of it,
Hmm.
but otherwise I'm pretty indifferent. And I'm looking at this and I'm seeing, first off, they're not really marketing any of the games that essentially, I mean, they look like they're going to be exclusive to the Apple Arcade.
Hmm.
There's I was looking at a few of these. Overland. Um, First off, I'm on the official Apple Arcade website, apple.com/apple-arcade. I can't click on any of these games that are scrolling to look at these,
Hmm.
right? Like I can't check and see on this page where it's scrolling right past me, a tone Heart of the Elder Tree. I had to look that up in a different window,
Hmm.
and it actually doesn't look bad. It looks like an RPG, um,
Right.
it's like a 2D RPG, puzzle RPG with some combat and stuff that appears to be inspired by
But
um, Norse
that's
mythology. And so that's a big thing. It's like there's no convenient way to look at this and to
hmm
see, okay, are these games, what are these games even?
yeah.
I can't see that on the official Apple Arcade website. So how am I
Right.
supposed to know what the quality is just if I'm looking at the Apple Arcade website,
Hmm.
other than these, these ones here? There's way more games than just what
Hmm.
they have videos for.
Yeah.
So that's a thing I have with this. I'm like, they're not doing a good job marketing it right now,
Hmm.
and it's been 2 months, and they say that's going to have a fall 2019 release. Fall starts like in a couple days and
Hmm.
ends in November. So
Hmm.
But that's a beauty thing. They don't give, coming early fall. They just say fall. So it could
Yeah.
happen on the last day
Yep.
of fall and then
well,
still be
what
telling the truth.
Hmm.
what I'm saying about that, my point in saying that is November to market a whole new service.
Hmm.
That's a pretty short schedule.
Hmm.
Um, to market a whole large service like this, and have it, and
Uh,
expect any real results in
in my
that.
opinion, it doesn't even seem like they're really intending to market it like super great. It just feels like something to just be like, hey, you could pay another $5 a month for insert this. That's the way I see it personally. Because
That
like what
well,
really like holds value there? I can't think of anything. They don't even care enough to show their products that they're actually trying to market. It's just
mhm,
like there's another service that you could pay a monthly fee for. And it's like, okay. That's exactly how I feel about it personally. Like
yeah.
I really don't see the point. I wouldn't
But
doubt that it comes out in fall. Honestly,
I
like,
don't think that since any of us are really, because when I say I'm Apple products, I mean,
mhm,
I'm not religious into them. I
right.
don't
Mhm.
check updates every day. I use them for work. I'm a graphic design. I do social media. I do websites.
Mhm,
Like I said, I stream. I do my podcast. So I use their products. I love their products that way. But
right.
I mean, I'm not hanging out wearing a black turtleneck, a shit like that. So they could be marketing this, and we could just not be in the right place. I mean,
Mhm,
they have a niche market, and they may just be
mhm,
capitalizing on that, and
Yeah.
instead of just the simple everyday iPhone user.
mhm.
Mhm. So I mean, because Ren, you just don't see any value in this,
Yeah, I see literally
which
none.
is uh Donnie. What do you kind of what?
Um, like I said, I've got 7 kids, and I don't see much value in this. I mean, I know my kids go through games like Chris Brown goes through girlfriends, but uh, I mean, I would not get it.
Mhm,
Okay.
The quality of stuff that I see, I have found for free. So why would I
yeah.
pay a subscription to have a whole bunch of games that my kids think are shit
Mhm.
versus just having them download one after another free stuff until they find something that will catch their attention for 30.
Mhm.
I'm sitting at the I'm gonna be the counterpoint here, maybe the contrarian here. But I mean I see value here. I see because I'm just looking at the game and I think it's just poorly marketed, really. And there are some games here that like this Atone, um, what is it called? Atone Heart of the Elder Tree. Um, I could see this, being a good couch game for somebody or someone, a couple to
Mhm.
play together. I'm seeing Overland. I could see this as a good. Um, I take it on the go with me. I play a little bit, on the train or on the plane or whatever. And then when I get back home, I sit on the couch and I play it on my Apple TV. I'm seeing games here that I think are worth checking out and worth playing and probably worth
Mhm.
the service. And if they continue to, because it's just like any other game service.
Mhm.
Um, there's going to not be games that hit you right. There are going to be games that are low quality. I
Mhm.
don't see a lot of games that to me just look like they're utter schlock, that
Mhm.
look like they are just asset flips that Apple just, pulled in from the App Store. I don't think, and I disagree with the idea that maybe this is just going to be like they're just going to be pulling shit from the App Store because it doesn't look like that. It looks like these are specifically curated and targeted, maybe from the App Store, but also developed specifically for this platform. So I think that there is value here, and I don't. And if the $5 a month is correct, and that you get a free trial before you start paying that, a 1 month trial.
Mhm.
I think the value here is there's some good potential here,
Mhm.
but of
See,
course,
I can see that. I can respect that.
and so yeah, for me, I think that like I said, I think there's value here. I think there's potential here. Of course, it's going to be a different story um, when the service hits live and we can actually get our hands on these games and see how they work and operate
Mhm.
on different, because I have a MacBook Air that I am still borrowing from my stepdad. um my parents have an Apple TV. I have actually quite a few Apple products, surprisingly. So I'll try it out on a couple different, maybe I'll go visit my parents under the guise of, "Yeah, I'm just here to visit," and then I'm actually gonna play on the Apple TV just to
Yeah,
check and
we
see how
all
Apple
know it's
Arcade.
Mr. Turtle that got you sold on it.
Actually, it's the Atone Heart of the Elder Tree intrigues me, and then the Overland intrigues me. Those are the two very specifically that kind of intrigue me.
There's
Um,
one game on there that I would honestly like to try because it does look like an indie game that I would play on PS4.
mhm.
And it is scrolling through right now. It's to the left of Mr. Turtle, so I'm not quite seeing what it is. Come on, go faster.
I just love how it's right next to Mr. Turtle. And
Yep.
big
Well, and
feature.
let's just also say this is a shitty way to set up a website, Apple.
Yeah.
Projection, first light. It,
Oh,
it
yes.
it has like a side-scrolling platformer kind of look to it, so it looks like it'll have that kind of retro gaming feel with
Mhm.
updated graphics.
Yes, let's see here. 2D puzzle platformer developed by Australian indie developer Shadowplay Studios. This one is actually already out. It's out on PC, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and Nintendo Switch.
Oh
So you
well,
can
then
actually play that
maybe
right now.
yeah, I might have to go look it up on PS4 because if it's anything like Hue, because that's what that picture looks like.
Hmm.
Hue is an incredibly crafted game.
Yeah.
Uh, it's glorious. So if this is half of what that is, that would be where the value in this would be for me.
Hmm. Um, so that's the Apple Arcade. Do you guys have any other thoughts or opinions on this? I mean, I think if the $5.99, that's a pretty good deal.
What?
Or I'm sorry, not $4.99, $5 a month.
At first, I thought these were all like Apple exclusives. I just actually just looked up Overland, and it's supposed to be like released on Steam in fall as well. And I don't know, because
Yeah.
like that was I thought that was like the big selling point was like they're Apple exclusives and they're curated experiences.
Well, I think some of it is it's not that like Apple exclusive, but it's Apple is curating this to be ported specifically for this service for
Mhm.
use on all Apple devices,
Yeah,
not just a
right.
ported. This isn't a port of
Just
a
a
PC
basic
game.
port for just one
Mhm.
particular
Yeah,
device. I understand. Yeah.
this is a specific,
Mhm.
because the what was that one we just talked about, that projection First Light?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not on any app. That's not on any iOS device. It's
Mhm.
not even. It doesn't even say on it that it's on. That it's available on Apple devices. It says PC, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and Nintendo Switch. It's not on Mac OS. It's not on iOS. It's
Mhm.
not on Android. So I think that's another part of it. Um. So
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, any other thoughts or opinions you guys want to share on this?
That does it
No,
for
I
me.
think I've been pretty vocal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel the same way. Oh
Yeah.
man.
All right. Well, if you guys don't mind, we'll go on ahead and end this show right now. And we're going to start with Donnie. Go on ahead and tell all the kind folks what you do, where they can find it, and all the other things that you want to tell the folks about.
I am a podcaster, Twitch streamer, Instagrammer extraordinaire. You can pretty much just Google "Grab Life by the Controller" and find me. I'll show up on Spotify, Instagram, Twitch. Sorry about that. I just like games. I like talking about games. I have enjoyed being on the show, just chatting. It's what I love for it. What I love for it. It's what I live for. It's my passion. And yeah, thanks for the opportunity to share some of my opinions and all that
Yeah.
stuff.
Of course, dude. Thank you for being on.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Renditions.
Yeah, that's
What's
me.
coming up with you?
Well, you see, tomorrow I'm gonna be on vacation, and then the day after that, I'm gonna continue being on vacation, and I'm gonna be on vacation until next week. So, but that being said, when I get back, I should be doing some more Borderlands stuff. We'll actually be really close for Borderlands 3 coming out. You can find me at twitch.tv/renditions with two Z's because I'm dumb and I can't spell my name. So, yeah, that's me.
Coming up on my channel, I've been talking to some other friends. We'll probably be playing Apex, and I'm kind of looking for more games to play. Just kind of felt like I'm in a rut and wanna kind of branch out a little bit outside of Insurgency, Sandstorm, and Minecraft. So yeah, that's what's going on with my channel. The podcast can be found on Spotify, Apple Podcast, TuneIn, Swoot, and everywhere else podcasts are found. I'm not sure if we're on iHeart, but I'm not going to be too sad if I think we might have submitted at one point, but I don't think we got onto it for whatever reason. So yes, we are available on Spotify, Apple Podcast. One second, let me get these links going in the chat. Apple Podcasts, everywhere else. If you guys enjoy what you heard, please leave us a rating and review. If you guys are on the podcast feed and that's how you get the show, let us know. We always appreciate hearing from you guys. If you guys want to connect with us further, you can come to our individual Twitch channels, and you can also hit us up on Twitter at NTNPod. I don't think there's anything else I need to mention. Brent, can you think of anything?
No, I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
All right. Well, guys, we appreciate you guys, everyone coming in and listening, and just another big thank you to Donnie for coming in and talking on the podcast. Yeah, we'll talk to you guys next week. Goodbye.
Bye, everybody.
Peace.